My name's Barb Boyes. I'm from Oshawa, Ontario. Grew up in Pickering, actually. I grew up on a farm in Pickering and lived in Pickering and Ajax most of my life, and certainly while I was playing lacrosse, and have since moved to Oshawa and lived there. Definitely there was a key moment. I remember very, very vividly, and I was probably 16 years of age, and I had seen this article in the local paper about Whitby girls hockey. And I always played hockey in the ponds with my brother, and I come from a real hockey kind of oriented family. And I saw this article and I thought, oh, Mom and Dad aren't going to let me play, because I had done the research, and it was on Sundays at 12 noon, and we went to church every Sunday. And so I tried to pick the best moment possible to approach them about it, and absolutely not. That conflicts with church, and so on and so forth. And I begged, I literally was begging for days on end, I guess, kind of thing. And somewhere they must have had a conversation and relented. And hence I started playing girls hockey at 16 years of age. And in the summertime, at that time, I played softball. And once I started playing hockey, I met some, more friends, and they were lacrosse players, and convinced me to give lacrosse a try. And that team was Whitby, or Gerard Road. We played in the outdoor box in Whitby off of Gerard Road. And that was the beginning of lacrosse for me. 2 years of box lacrosse, and then I moved into field lacrosse. When you think about memories, there's tons of them. If you try and think maybe of one that really stands out, there's no question making Team Canada was big for me. And that started with a letter that I got from one of the Gilkinson brothers back in 1980 to come and try out for Team Ontario. When I got that, and that was the end of my box career, 2 years, and then I got that letter in 1980 and moved into the field program. And when I got that letter, wow, that was huge. And I thought, I'm doing whatever it takes to make that Team Ontario. And then 2 years later, we were having tryouts for the 82 team to represent Team Canada, the first World Cup in Nottingham, England. And same thing, when I got the letter that I had made that team, that was, a thrill for me. And playing in that World Cup, the first ever Women's World Cup, I remember that very vividly at the cricket stadium in England, and just how big of an event it was at that time, and how special we all felt, and we really felt that we were a pretty solid team, and contrary to what others thought, and we went in there and ended up in third place and upset England. That was the big upset win, and certainly can remember that. In coaching, there's different kinds of memories, I think, in coaching, and a lot of it has to do with surrounding players you've coached over the years, and what they've done and gone on to do. Some players are just easier to coach than others, and those kind of kids, they're just easy to coach, and there's lots of good qualities about them. And so over the years, there's so many kids like that I've come into contact with. In terms of, wins or whatever, because I'm a very competitive person. I like to win. There's no question about that. The time that when I was coaching Team Ontario and we won, finally knocked off BC after years and years and years of finishing second or third at Nationals. We finally beat BC and knocked them off, and that was definitely an exciting time and a memorable moment. And I guess the other one in coaching would be my high school team at Donald Wilson. Again, we were knocking on the door, I don't know how many years, to Sinclair, and we knocked off Sinclair, and then the next challenge was to win Trillium Cup. And again, we were coming in second or third at Trillium Cup, and when we finally beat the Notre Dame out of St. Catharines in overtime, that was a pretty exciting moment. One of the most interesting rules, I guess, that or parts of the game it's so strange, and it was strange then, and it's strange today when you think about it. But the game had no boundaries. So in other words, there were no sidelines, there were no end lines. If the ball sort of rolled off the field of play and there was nobody in the vicinity of where the ball was, you could just pick it up and keep going. And I mean, I remember watching or playing and, you know, running up a hill and back onto the field, and the whistle would never go because there just were no concrete boundaries that if the ball or your foot went over the line, the whistle would go. So it was very interesting sometimes. I mean, sometimes it got so out of hand that you might see somebody run behind a lawn chair and back onto the field. So the boundaries were definitely very loose at times. The other one that would seem very foreign nowadays, every field you go to, everything's a plastic stick. And back when I played with a wood stick, and most people played with a wood stick. Even when plastic came out, I really never did use a plastic stick. I always felt that the wood stick was a lot more solid and stronger. I was a defender, so I wanted something very solid and very strong when I was making my stick checks on my opponent. So I stuck with the wood stick, even though there were a lot of advocates to switch over to plastic, but I never did. I was always a big believer for a long, long time in the wood stick. Yeah, it's definitely changed for sure. There's definitely hard boundaries now. That's one of the changes. But there's been a lot of change. It is a very, very fast-paced game now, and it's fun to watch how fast-paced it is and how quickly the ball is moved and how athletic the girls are and fast and big and strong. Where do I see it going? You know, I've thought about that, and obviously, you know, with the movement to get it into the Olympics, there will be change. The people that have that say in whether it goes to the Olympics or not are going to have a big impact on what the game looks like. They want it to look, you know, something that is going to be very sellable to fans, and the fast-paced part of it will definitely be a part of it. Maybe smaller fields, maybe less players on the field. Lots of goals being scored, but it remains to be seen. You know, I think part of the coaching piece of it, when I wasn't young when I got involved like kids are today when they're 5 or 6 or 7 and they start playing lacrosse or any sport for that matter. As I said earlier, I didn't start playing hockey, organized hockey, until I was 16, and then hence lacrosse a year later or so. Around 17 years of age. So, you know, by the time I finished my playing career, I was somewhere around 30, and I thought, you know, we don't have a coach. Somebody needs to coach this group. So I took it on as a player coach for a couple of years, and then thought, you know what, I think it's time to maybe just focus on coaching alone. And I think initially what it was a challenge. One of the, you know, the challenge, the competitive part of it, the same as what attracted me to as a player, the competing and the compete level and all of that, and trying to get to be the best that I could be as an athlete. I thought, you know what, the same thing's holding true for me as a coach. Now it's my turn to try and get these athletes to be the best they can be and understand what it is to get there, putting the work ethic in and making sacrifices and those kinds of things. So I like the challenge of it. And the other piece of it is there's no question, and people that don't do it just can't relate to this because it is such a time commitment, but it's such a rewarding experience. These are a couple of programs from the World Cup when I was coaching Team Canada. Let's start with the first one, 89. I was the assistant coach with Dave Evans, who is from BC, and coaching Team Canada. And the World Cup was in Perth, Australia, which was a very, very memorable trip to even get there because the airlines had gone on strike. We didn't realize that until we had our stopover in Hawaii, and then had to find a way to get to Perth from there. Which we did eventually, but was quite the trip. And anyway, we finished 4th at the World Cup in Australia, and probably was the first time for me that, other than in '82 when I went to England for World Cup, first time that I'd really traveled anywhere. And Australia was just absolutely beautiful, and it was a fantastic World Cup. And then in '93, I was coaching, head coach this time, of the Canadian team. I was coaching from that team from '90 to '93. And, you know, I really look back on that time as a big turning point where we were really asking a lot more of the players in terms of commitment and really treating them like national team players and what the expectations of them were. And we ended up finishing 4th that year at the World Cup in Scotland. I don't know if we were the cocky Canadians or what, but we always believed that we were better than what they had predicted us to be. We beat Scotland in the bronze, well, I say bronze medal game very loosely because, you know, we went into that game with our goal, obviously, at that point, because that's where we had lined up, and to win that bronze medal. And we're ecstatic, of course, when we beat Scotland, and we had to make a comeback. We were down in that game, and we fought back, so it was a close game and a hard-fought game, and we pulled out the win, and ecstatic that we had won the bronze medal. And when we got to the closing ceremonies, they only gave out gold and silver medals. And it's like, where's the bronze medal? Oh, we don't give out bronze medals. We only give out gold and silver medals. Like, how ridiculous is this? Everywhere in the world you think you get a gold, silver, bronze. So we didn't get a bronze medal. We came home empty-handed. And although everybody talked about our bronze medal, we never really had one. And then years later, the International Federation rectified it, and we eventually did get our bronze medals. Carol coached me at national team level for a few years. So, you know, and Carol and Wes, they both, when Carol was coaching, they virtually took in the team as part of their family. I don't know how many times we were at their house for different functions and dinners and things like that. Wes, he would so proudly share his stories. That barn that he built the sticks in, if anybody saw his factory, it was literally a barn with wood and sawdust and wood shavings from the sticks everywhere. And he pumped out, just hundreds and thousands of wooden sticks over the years. And you'd sit and you could watch him string the sticks, and he was just expertly stringing sticks and so on and so forth. And I used a Patterson stick for many years. In fact, at 1982 World Cup, I would have used a Patterson stick. You know, 20 years I've been administratively involved or executive director as the Lady Blue Knights, and the climate of the game, and not the game itself, but the climate of the culture, I guess. When I look back to those first few years, when we had 45 players and then 60 players and then 90 players or whatever it was involved, everybody, parents, the kids that were playing, just happy to be there. No one, questioned this or that, or everybody just trusted what you were doing, trusted the coaches that they knew what they were doing. And you watch over the years, and now everybody's playing lacrosse in how many different communities, and it's very competitive, and hence you go to the field, and now you've got a culture that starts to where you've got parents second guessing this or kids second guessing that. And just recently I actually had this conversation through email with our Blue Knight group that this isn't acceptable, and we need to get back to treating our volunteers properly. And I think that's a really important thing in any sport, that we create a culture for young athletes that is safe and one that they can develop a passion for sport, whether it's lacrosse or anything, versus having a culture that may bring some negativity. So I really believe the positive aspect is really important, and we keep that in our game.